Greetings, it is I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue our discussion on Werewolf the Apocalypse in the World of Darkness. I've been talking about werewolf society and werewolves in nature in general, the information you might need to know to play one. Let's start with werewolves when it comes to geography. Now this is an interesting topic because you have to consider werewolf civilization is far older than human civilization. They've existed around for much longer and have had their tribes spread out to the world much more effectively. Granted, many of these tribes love to stay to their more territorial areas that they began with, but there are bunches of tribes that have spread throughout the world and spread their influence. Let's talk about each of the continents, though. We'll start with North America. Now, North America has three native tribes, or had three native tribes: the Wendigo, the Crotosians, and the WtA. Now, they got along with the Native Americans really well. The Native Americans stayed in low numbers. They venerated the land. These were things that the Garou respected. In fact, so much so that this connection between the two of them, that Native Americans tend to be immune to delirium. They can avoid the madness that comes along with viewing a werewolf in its Krynos form. Interestingly enough. Now, things changed, though, for North America when the Europeans came. They brought with them the worm. The Crotosians paid the price for this. They passed away. And there's been conflicts between these native tribes and the European invaders and the Native Americans for eons. This does mean that the remaining two North American tribes have very big chips on our shoulders, especially with the tribes that were the first ones to arrive in North America. Regardless, when we come into the modern day, we see every tribe represented in North America. Everyone has at least some members of it there, especially with the melting pot that was the United States. It has allowed for all these other tribes to effectively move in. Granted, the WtA and the Wendigo are still very territorial, and there can be conflicts between all these werewolves. But truces are the main flow of everything. That most of the time, all these tribes get along perfectly fine in North America. They've found a way to exist all together to a decent degree. Your main conflicts usually do occur on the side where the Wendigos have their territories. They still have a lot of issues with what happened to them in the past with the European invaders, and so they're very much closer to getting into anger about what's going on here. Now, South America is unique as it has no native Garou tribe, at least at this point in time. The reason being, post-War of Rage, a lot of changing breeds of other shape changers were driven into South America. This means there are a great number of other types of changing creatures within this continent, and has prevented Garou from invading. They remember the War of Rage. They remember what the Garou did. So even with the decline in Gaia there, with the destruction of the Amazon, it's hard for a Garou to come in there and actually be able to successfully help out with this. Granted, a Garou that just goes and wanders in the area is probably going to be killed for breaking into it. One that comes basically offering to help protect the Amazon, well, it doesn't say that they won't be killed. It just says that they have an uphill battle trying to convince the native changing breed that they are not there to murder them and that they're here to help. It is a tough battle that very few Garou manage to survive and actually be able to travel into South America and successfully live there for any period of time. Now let's talk about Europe. A lot of tribes for today come from Europe, of course. Europe is the Garou's battleground. They've been fighting it out amongst each other for eons there. In fact, because of the large amounts of population and small amounts of nature, battleground for territory has been intense. It's also said that this is where the worm originated. The forces of the worm came from Europe. From this conflict that the Garou were battling amongst each other, it helped bring it about. Now, European Garou are the major proponents of a war against humanity. Because of the nature of where they live, and the small amounts of territory, and the lack of nature, they sort of feel like it's important to basically eliminate all of humans. At least a good portion of them do. Not all of them, but again, the main proponents of this concept exist here. Now, unfortunately, there's another side effect to Europe. Because of its small area, and because of all the conflicts that occur, well, it is thought that when the veil is finally broken, it will be in Europe. When the world learns of Garou, learns of werewolf, and they probably will soon with how things have been going, how close calls have occurred within this last modern era, it will start in Europe. That's where they will be discovered. Now let's talk about Africa. Africa's another continent that there are actually not that many Garou are. Silent Striders have been known to wander the continent, and there's a group of Red Talons in Ethiopia. But other than these two tribes, no other Garous allowed in. Because, like with South America, when the War of Rage was over, many changing breeds moved into Africa. They took that place over. That was their terrain that they moved into. This doesn't mean that Garou don't try to travel into Africa. It is said that within the Congo there is the cairn of great legend and power, probably the most powerful one in the world, still hidden from ancient days. Garou go looking for this, and none return. So it's unsure if this legend is true, or it's just a wives' tale. But the changing breeds within there certainly don't allow anybody to get close to it. Now let's talk about Asia, because Asia has been treaded upon by many a werewolf, but it also functions as a mystery a lot of times. In Siberia, the Silver Fangs have had a great presence, but as of late, certain cairns have lost their mystical abilities, and with them, the Silver Fang that were protecting them have disappeared. A mystery there. And Russia itself, well, umbral travel and connections with and using moon bridges is difficult within Russia. It's said there's this spirit fog over it. But there are werewolves in other parts of the continents. There are some in India. There are those in Japan. Japan is actually looked at as being a battleground, not only to try to keep the worm out, but for control of it in various tribes. Glasswalkers love it for the technology. Other tribes love it for those various codes. Bushido is popular among many of the werewolves. So there's this entire love of Japan there because of this kind of juxtaposition in their ways. But again, it's a battleground area. Then there's the jungles of Indonesia. Werewolves don't enter there too. It is said that there are some powerful changing breeds there, and there is a great power there that sort of amasses them. So it's unknown if this is something that the werewolves should fear or not, but again, they really don't have a chance to break into this area to find out. It is too dangerous and none of them really would return. Now let's talk about Australia. Australia is actually said to have the greatest spiritual connection of any continent. It is actually supposed to be the closest to the Umbra. If you see the Aboriginals and they have their dream time that they can enter into, it is said that when they enter into this, they are connecting their mindset with the real world and the umbral world, that they are kind of mixing the two of these. This means there's been a great spiritual connections in this entire realm. The Bunyips were the tribe that protected there, and they were powerful. They were considered the wisest and powerful, with the greatest gifts from their spirit the great spirit that looked after them, that they had some powerful umbral gifts, and unfortunately didn't protect them. When the European Garou came and their European kinfolk who began to slaughter the Tasmanian tigers, well, it was beginning to spell the end for the Bunyip. The Bunyip had power and strength, but the European Garou had numbers on them. The last Bunyip died in 1934, and soon after that, the last Tasmanian tiger died. Now, the Garou that live in Australia, they are kind of a fearful, shameful lot that breed with dingoes rather than wolves, because there are no native wolves to Australia. The closest thing was the Tasmanian tiger, and that's dead. So they breed with dingoes, and they tried their best to exist here. But some go missing. And they've said that the spirits of the Bunyip, of the dead of them, are out there for vengeance, and that they wander the outback at night, hunting those that basically slaughtered them long ago. Now let's talk about Antarctica briefly. Antarctica, there are no cairns, there are no known tribes that live there. It's a frozen wasteland of cold and nothingness, and most Garou just leave it at that. Though there are always stories that kind of circulate that the legendary Thune is actually there in Antarctica. Whether this is true or not, most elders dismiss it and just say, avoid the place entirely, and most Garou do, but a few still go looking here and there. So that's it for today. I talked about Garou in the world. I talked about their impact in the world and the various groups and how they react in different areas of the world. Where they're located, where you might be playing one in across the continents, and how they're related in various activities that go on within those continents. In the next episode, I'm going to move on and start talking about the worm itself, and give you some important information about the greatest enemy of the Garou, the worm. The various things you might fight that are under its control, and what kind of danger the worm itself poses. So any questions, comments, anything you would say, anything you think I left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel, the Empire, the work I do. If you want to show some extra support, you can always check out my Patreon, link to the description below. But regardless, until next time, I bid you farewell.